The title is Branding and Marketing, so let's dig directly into it. It's not intended to be an Ukrainian flag, but I think that blue is a very corporate color, and I think that yellowish orange is a very much like a product, like sales, like, discounts, like product orientation. So I wanted to give you a little insight in what I believe is the difference between branding and marketing. Branding is, in my opinion, very important because we operate in a B2B market. And if you think of this for a second, it's really, really not so often, it's very rare actually, that anybody buys a CapEx investment just by seeing an advertising or going to a trade show or seeing a film or anything like that. That is something that takes a lot of considerations because it's expensive, because or cost a lot of money at least, and it's also because it takes the right decision needs to be formulated in what requirements you have, the financing of the equipment, and all the things that matters, whether it fits the purpose of your need that you need to get covered. So I've defined it a little bit into like the branding, and the reason why branding is important is because that is the long-term effect. This is how you think of a company. If you think of some of the really big brands like Google, HP, IBM, Apple, Facebook, Metaverse, and I mean all these companies. Maybe you know somebody working there, maybe you don't, but I think we all have an idea whether it's a great company. Are they known for good quality? Are they known for less good quality? And all those values that we tie to a brand is basically the long-term effect of branding. So therefore, in my opinion, and especially when we work in the B2B market, branding is really essential, and it is the very foundation of all your marketing effort needs to be aligned with your branding. The branding gives you a lot of things to communicate. Who are your people? How are you reacting to all the, let's say, the public agendas like diversity, gender equality, sustainability, CSR. All those things are more related to the branding rather than to direct marketing. When it comes to more about the products and the marketing effort, it is more about competition, applications, prices, and products. And the reason why I go through this quite fast is because in the B2B market, we rarely market prices, for example. And there's a reason for it. And one of the reasons is that I think that everybody understands that pricing on a B2B market is a complex thing, because often you buy more than one piece. It can be a full solution. And when you have a full solution, then if you buy a printing press, you need to have an unbinder, you need to have a rebinder, you need to have some binding equipment. So the complexity is not just like an off-the-shelf product, but it's also very different from market to market. It's also different from customer to customer, how these pricing. So of course it does make sense to have, let's say, 30% discount on your new press, because 30% of what, first of all, and secondly, if the press is not the right one, you won't buy it because of a discount, of course. But still, marketing is great, and you should do it, of course, but the marketing then should be, let's say, where the branding is a long-term effect, the marketing is a short-term effect. So basically, when you make a marketing campaign, it should be very easy to understand, and it should be measurable. So if you spend $10,000 on a marketing campaign, it's an investment, and your return must be, of course, higher than the 10,000, or at least have a long-term effect. Otherwise, it's been waste of money. It's a little bit different with branding, because branding is a little bit more difficult to convert. So if you spend $10,000 in branding, you can't really say that this is something that is extremely valuable in a short term, but the long-term effect is maybe totally fantastic and really good to spend money on. So just as an example. The reason why we talk about this is of course, how do we get our products to market? How do we ensure that people see the things that we are selling, and how we can do this? And the reason why I took the skip ad button from the YouTube channel is basically because I think that most of us, really try to avoid spending 5 seconds on looking at an advert that we have not asked for. Relevance is important, but it's also like, okay, you understand that you use YouTube for free, then you click the skip ad in order to get that film to be shown. Even though it's not YouTube that creates the films, the YouTuber often gets, or the content creator can sign up for a monetization program, so they get a percentage of whatever you pay for having these kind of things. The interesting thing is I took some relatively quite interesting quotes here. One of them, SurveyMonkey, say that nearly 3 out of 4 users, which is like 74%, think there are too many ads, and the number of people that think so is relating to how old you are. I think maybe we get a little bit more impatient. Maybe we also get to a point where we get a little bit sick and tired of seeing adverts. We go straight to the point. The other one is from marketingcharts.com, where it's also a good statement here. It says few people are willing to trust information in advertising on its own, which means that basically branding, you have to believe it. You must build branding and activities that support your brand, because that is the trust you put into your company. But if you advertise products and you understand that people don't really like it or trust it, then of course you have to figure out if you can do it a little bit different. Then the last one is from Wave.video, and a research saying that 65% of people skip video ads. That basically means that a lot of the free internet is, well, it's free because we have advertising, but the value of advertising is maybe not so high, even when it comes to films. And though I live making films, I don't live making advertising, and that is something that we will revert to in a little bit. So you can say that if only views and likes are important, then there's a lot of ways to get them. This is a website I have used one time because I wanted to see how it actually works, and that is, I think it's actually a terrible service, because basically it's called views.biz, and here you can basically pay for how many views, likes, and subscribers you want for the most commonly used social media platforms. And this show that you as a marketeer needs to be even more concerned and more, let's say, aware of what kind of money you spend on online advertising, because is the audience genuine? Can you trust the numbers that you're given? And even if you can trust it, I'm just wondering, does a conversion in a B2C kind of methodology really pays any attention or makes any sense to selling a product where the selling cycle might be 3 months, 6 months, even way longer before the product is signed on? I'm not so sure about it. I would also say that this is on the edge of being illegal, because basically if you have 10,000 followers on your social media channel and you have bought them from here, isn't that just fraud? Because I mean, they're not genuine. They might not be interested. It could be, a bunch of Philippines from young Philippines that just want to make money. And I can tell you, I took a look behind the scene on this one. Here they sell it to, let's say, people in developing countries, where they say you can make as much as $1.50 a day by clicking on different services and channels that they provide them in a software they develop for it. Probably a huge and big business, but zero value in my opinion. And the thing is that you always have to think about, okay, if you start using services like views.biz or any similar, so there's hundreds of them out there, you can ask yourself, does it support your brand? Does it support your brand that you're buying likes and clicks and views? Or is it actually on the opposite? Can it be seen as why you're trying to fool somebody? I mean, sometimes when you look at some of the brands outside in our industry, they have so many followers, though they don't really post anything, that sometimes I'm just wondering why the freaking people follow these kind of websites and liking them if there's no content on them and there's nothing to come for. So that is something that I think you should be very aware of when it comes to your branding. Then I want to show you something here, and that is normally I wouldn't take a video from a player in the industry, but I do this in this case here because I think it's so bad. I want you to see it, but you can see I already put a few labels on. I think it's stereotype, I think it's sexist, I think it talked down to customers, and then it's intended to be funny, but is it really fun? And then you can ask yourself when you've seen it, what do you think? Does it support the brand? But let's see, this one is from ESCO, and it's just one of a series of video ads they have done.
Oh, hi there. I'm a project manager, and before Web Center, creating content was a confusing mess. But with Web Center, I have a dashboard that shows me the status of all my projects, from creating a physical label to sending out pack shots to e-commerce sites. So I have more time to dedicate to my latest hobby. Oh.
I don't know what you think, but I think that these words that I put into the list next to the advertising is just a few of the things you can think of with this campaign, and you know, I just think you should be very careful when you do things like this, because I'm not so sure that it supports the otherwise ESCO brand, which I think is a very great company with great products, very well. And I hope it was just a one-time mistake from a marketing person that thought this was fun, but maybe I should ask them. So, of course, it leads to the question, because, I mean, if we do funny advertising, if we do some kind of marketing that has just one purpose, and that is to drive the conversion. And conversion in this case is basically that either conversion from a campaign to your website, but the more important is, of course, to figure out how the conversion comes from a lead into an actual sales. So the likes and clicks in itself has no value. And I mean, let me give you a very simple example. I once spoke to one of our customers, and I asked him, have you got a lot of response on these videos? And he said, I don't know the numbers, I don't know the response, but I know that we got customers. And I was just thinking that for a second. If you just imagine if you, let's say, spent X amount of euros or dollars on some kind of campaign. If you just hit one, maybe two, maybe three, is that good enough? Of course, you can say that from a branding perspective, you want to have a broader audience. But when it comes to conversion, it's not the likes or the clicks that plays any value or plays any role. It is the sales that plays a role. So when you create content marketing, it is for a different purpose. So let's move on a little bit here. The question I asked here is, does short-term marketing apply to CapEx investments? And no. Short-term investment is to keep yourself and your brand top of mind. And of course, if you make something that keeps people interested in your product and your service and your brand, it has an effect. But whether people click on it or register for it or whatever, it's not so important. What you can see here is I also illustrated this by using the marketing funnel, or the funnel in itself. Because if you're in a situation today where you're not having enough sales, it's because you way earlier didn't have a focus on the funnel. If the funnel is filled up with qualified leads, then you have a good chance of always being able to predict your revenue down to actually a certain percentage. And the more you can elaborate on from the outside influencing things like inflation or competition or trade shows that you know will influence the buying behaviors for a time, the more precise the funnel can actually be used, and the more precisely you can decide how much money you want to spend. If your funnel is totally filled up with leads, save a little bit on the money side. If you need to have a more constant flow in your sales, fill up the funnel and make sure that the marketing and the sales people are working closely together. And as I always say, make sure that your marketing people are part of the, let's say, maybe not top management of the company, but at least on a level in your company where they can make decisions that are important and necessary for filling up the funnel, so your salespeople have the right leads to look into. So what we recommend, and that has been like a mantra from INKISH from, I would say, from almost the very beginning, is to use pull marketing versus push marketing. And what is the difference? Well, you can see here these two wonderful cartoon ladies. One is having a magnet and the other one is having a megaphone. The pull marketing is a term that you use basically to make sure that when people have a need for information, then they pull to your website because it's easy to find information. It's easy to get the information you need. And one of the things that I have learned from the past 8 years working with INKISH is that more and more vendors keep telling us that people are way more educated when they first approach the rep compared to the old times, which is also one of the reasons why people are having speculations about the value of trade shows, because in the old times it was true that people came to a trade show, saw a machine and signed an agreement on the trade show. But today people are investing a lot of time in researching because there's so many products out there, so they need to do that. The megaphone lady, that is describing the advertising part where you say, click me, buy me, do whatever you want to do. And people are sick and tired of that. So I think that pull marketing is to make sure that you have the right content. And the right content, what is that? In our opinion, it's like good content describing customer cases. It is a lot of real white papers that are describing the technology in context. It is specifications, of course. It is business cases where you understand the business around buying a product more than you think of just seeing a machine running, basic, right? Too many print vendors, are showing machines running, and then they believe that they can sell a machine on this. Come on, guys! I love watching machines running, and on our new Instagram channel, we will have a lot of machines just running, so you can see them running. But when the day is over, you spend maybe $1 million, 2 million, 3 million euros or dollars on an investment. It's not about to see a 30-second video where you see that it can fold or it can print or it can do whatever you want to do with it. It's a matter of understanding the investment's impact on your business and solving those problems that you might have. So guys, pull marketing is what you have to focus on. And then there is the marketing role, because I think there's too many. I met so many nice marketing people in the industry, but there are too many. They have more like an office role. They don't get to the open houses. They don't go to the exhibitions. They don't meet the customers. They don't meet the competition. They don't meet anything else. So basically, the marketing role is, of course, about getting leads, but it is more than that, because basically it's research, it's branding, it's image design, it's sales support and communication, all the things that you basically need in order to be sure that the salespeople have enough to work with, both on the branding side but also on the marketing side. But it's also just gave a few examples here. So when the research is about understanding the competitors, the market, your customers, what trends and channels you to sell. Because when you do that research, basically you on R&D and your management can make the right decision. That is the marketing role. When it comes to the branding, it's about the values, about the vision, the long term, the storytelling, and about the people that work for you. And you should basically design all these different things in order to make sure that you get the right boxes put in your marketing department. And I think that just putting these few words on the screen should give some managements in the companies like maybe a little bit red ears, because you know that some of the marketing people you have employed do not have the skills or do not have the power to actually do the things that we suggest here. And if they don't do it, somebody else has to do it. And that's what you have to look into. So branding is long-term, as I said so many times, and branding costs the same as marketing, but effect is more difficult to measure. So when somebody from the media side comes and say, we have so many conversions, or we have so many of this clicks or views or whatever, it doesn't really matter, because when it comes to the long-term effect of your marketing, it is way more about how are you seen. When it comes from everything from how do you receive a phone call, how are your representatives representing your company when they're in the field, how are you looking at a trade show, what is the design of your machines, how is the user interface on your software, how do the invoices look, how easy is it to get support. All those kind of things is maybe not in your terms relevant when it comes to the marketing, but it is freaking important when it comes to the branding of your company, just so you know about it. And then you have to use different channels. I would, of course, love you to use INKISH as much as possible, but this is not my mission in this webinar here. My mission is actually quite simple. You need to use the channels where your customers are. So if your customers, and you know this because your marketing department have researched this, if your customers are reading trade magazines, market your products and service in trade magazines. If they are online, market your products and service online. If they go to trade shows, be at trade shows. This is the real challenge of a marketing and sales and an organization, by the way, to be 100% certain that you actually hit the customers exactly where they are and understand their needs at the time where they have a well-defined needs, because then when you can closure. So guys and girls, thank you very much for this re-recording, and I hope to see you soon another time. Thank you. This is Morten from INKISH.